You know what they say about humans? They are absolutely, positively, certifiably insane. And I, Crix Valor, High Counselor of the Galactic Senate, am about to witness just how insane they truly are. The alarm bells had been shrieking for exactly 17 minutes and 43 seconds when she arrived. Not that anyone was counting, except for me, because apparently I am the only being in this entire star system with half a functioning brain cell. The Royal Guard, all 6 foot tall, heavily armored, genetically enhanced warriors of the Zephyrian Empire, stood at attention in the grand hallway. Their plasma rifles hummed with deadly energy, their faces hidden behind those ridiculous ceremonial masks that cost more than most planets' annual budgets. "Sir," Captain Thorne barked, his voice crackling through the communication array. "The human ship has docked. She is walking toward the palace." Walking. I repeated, my forearms flailing in exasperation. Just walking, not running. Not cowering. Not begging for mercy. "No, sir, just walking." Very calmly, sir. Yes, of course she was. Because humans, those delightful little Deathworld savages, do not understand the concept of appropriate fear responses. Through the massive viewing portal, I watched her approach. Maya Torres, that was her name according to our intelligence reports, looked exactly like what you would expect from a creature spawned on Terra. Average height by human standards, which meant she barely reached the chest plates of our guards. Brown hair tied back in what humans call a ponytail, wearing nothing more than a simple black jacket, dark pants and boots that had seen better decades. No visible weapons, no armor, no backup. She walked like she owned the place. "Supreme Commander Vex," I spoke into my communicator, "are your scanners detecting any hidden weapons? Explosives? Biological agents? Surely she must be carrying something." "Negative, Counselor Valor," came the reply from our military mastermind, whose strategic genius had conquered 17 star systems. "She appears to be completely unarmed." Unarmed, my voice pitched higher than a Centaurian songbird. "She is about to walk into the most heavily fortified throne room in 3 galaxies, surrounded by elite guards who could each bench press a small moon, and she is unarmed." "That appears to be correct, sir." I rubbed my temples with 2 hands while the other 2 gestured wildly at the viewing screen. "And remind me again why she is here." "She claims she wants to negotiate the release of the human prisoners we captured during the Outer Rim incident." "Negotiate." I laughed, a sound that resembled a dying space whale. "She wants to negotiate. 1 human female against the entire Zephyrian Empire. Oh, this should be amusing." But deep down in that tiny corner of my brain that had kept me alive through 47 years of galactic politics, something was sending up warning flares. Because I had read the files. I knew what humans were capable of when they put their collective minds to it. Their homeworld was a Class 12 Deathworld, a planet so hostile that most species would die within minutes of setting foot on its surface. The gravity alone would crush the bones of 70% of known sentient life forms. The weather could shift from pleasant sunshine to catastrophic storms in mere hours. Their oceans were filled with creatures that considered apex predators as light snacks. And somehow these humans had not only survived but thrived on that nightmare world. They had turned themselves into the universe's most efficient problem solvers through sheer, bloody-minded stubbornness. "Sir," Captain Thorne's voice crackled again, "she has reached the main entrance. She is talking to Guard Unit 7. I switched to the external audio feed just in time to hear her speak. Her voice was calm, almost conversational, with that peculiar human accent that made everything sound either charming or terrifying, depending on context. "Hi there," she said to the 8-foot-tall armored giant blocking her path. "I'm here to see whoever's in charge. I've got a proposition that might interest you." Guard Unit 7, whose real name was Gorth Killstrike, yes, that was actually his legal name, looked down at her through his helmet's targeting system. "Human female, you will surrender immediately or face termination." She tilted her head slightly, like a curious pet examining a new toy. "Termination." That seems a bit extreme for a first meeting, don't you think? I mean, we haven't been properly introduced. I am Guard Unit 7 of the Royal Guard. You are trespassing on Imperial territory. Nice to meet you, 7. I'm Maya, and technically I'm not trespassing if I was invited. You were not invited. Sure I was. Your people sent a very clear invitation when you captured my friends. It was written in plasma fire across 3 different space stations. Pretty dramatic, actually. I was impressed. I could practically feel Gorth's confusion through the communication link. The poor bastard had been trained to handle direct threats, terrorist attacks, assassination attempts, and full-scale military invasions. He had not been trained to handle cheerful human sarcasm. You will submit to arrest or be destroyed, he tried again, his voice carrying less conviction than before. Maya reached into her jacket pocket, and every weapon in a 50-meter radius immediately targeted her. She froze, one hand still inside her jacket, and smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the kind of smile that said, I know something you do not know, and you're really not going to like it when you find out what it is. Easy there, boys, she said, her voice still maddeningly calm. I'm just reaching for my credentials. She slowly withdrew a small data pad and held it up for Gorth to see. Maya Torres, official representative of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. I'm here under the Galactic Accords of Prisoner Exchange, Article 7, Subsection 3, which, if I remember correctly, grants me the right to negotiate for the release of captured personnel. Gorth stood there for a full 10 seconds, probably trying to process this information through his military-grade neural implants. Finally, he activated his communication link. Command, the human claims diplomatic immunity. What? I shrieked into my communicator. Diplomatic immunity. We are not at war with terror. There is no formal treaty. She cannot claim diplomatic immunity. But Maya Torres, bless her Deathworlder heart, had done her homework. The Galactic Accords were a complex web of interstellar law that had been written by committee over 3 centuries. They were full of loopholes, contradictions, and clauses that made absolutely no sense when taken in context. Most civilized species ignored them because they were too confusing to navigate. Humans apparently did not ignore them. Humans read them. Humans memorized them. Humans found the loopholes and drove cargo haulers through them. According to galactic law, she continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the courtyard through the audio pickups, any sentient being representing their homeworld government has the right to peaceful negotiation regarding captured personnel, regardless of the current diplomatic status between involved parties. It's actually a pretty old law, written after the vegan incident about 200 years ago. The vegan incident. I remembered reading about that in Academy. An entire star system had nearly been destroyed because someone had arrested a diplomat without proper cause. The resulting war had lasted 47 years and killed billions. Let her through, I sighed into my communicator. Sir? Gorth sounded confused. You heard me. Let her through. All the way to the throne room. But maintain full escort protocols. And for the love of all 17 gods, do not let her out of your sight. Understood, sir. I watched as the massive palace doors swung open with a deep, resonating boom that had been designed to intimidate visiting dignitaries. Maya Torres looked up at the 40-foot-tall doorway, then at the armed guards flanking it, then back at Gorth. Bit much, don't you think? She commented. I mean, I get it. Size matters in politics. But this is like compensating for something. Several guards shifted uncomfortably. I made a mental note to have their psychological profiles updated. If they were being affected by human humor, they might not be suitable for active duty. The procession began. Maya Torres walked in the center, surrounded by 12 of our finest warriors. Each guard carried enough firepower to level a city block. Their armor was crafted from rare metals that could withstand direct hits from military-grade weapons. Their training had taken decades to complete. and in the center of this mobile fortress walked one small human female, hands clasped behind her back, looking around like a tourist visiting a museum. "This is really quite beautiful," she said to no one in particular. "The architecture reminds me of neo-Gothic revival, but with those lovely crystalline elements. Very impressive. Must have cost a fortune." "Silence," barked Guard Unit 3, whose name was actually Brutus Carnage. "You will not speak unless spoken to." Maya glanced at him with mild interest. "You know, on my world we have a saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Of course we also have another saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I suppose it depends on your approach." Brutus looked like he was developing a headache. They continued through the palace corridors, past priceless artwork and artifacts collected from 1,000 conquered worlds. Maya commented on several pieces, displaying a surprisingly sophisticated understanding of galactic art history. She recognized an Andromedan fertility sculpture from the Third Age, correctly identified a Centaurian war banner from the Rebellion of Rings, and even complimented the color scheme of a Nebulan peace treaty written in living light. "You seem to know quite a bit about galactic culture," observed Guard Unit 5, whose name was actually Susan. Her parents had possessed an unusual sense of humor. "I read a lot," Maya replied. "Comes with the job. You'd be surprised how much you can learn about a species from their art. For instance, these security cameras mounted every 12 feet. They tell me you're either very paranoid or very thorough. Given the circumstances, I'm guessing both." Susan glanced upward reflexively, then caught herself and scowled behind her helmet. They were approaching the throne room now. The massive doors stood 30 feet tall and were carved from a single piece of Zephyrian darkstone, a material so rare and valuable that entire civilizations had gone to war over deposits the size of dinner tables. The doors depicted the glorious history of the Zephyrian Empire, the conquest of the first star system, the subjugation of the rebel worlds, the establishment of the royal dynasty. Maya stopped in front of the doors and studied the carvings for a long moment. "Impressive," she said finally, "though I notice there aren't any scenes showing what happened to the populations of those conquered worlds." The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop several degrees. "History is written by the victors," Guard Unit 2 stated coldly. His name was Deathhammer, which even by Zephyrian standards was considered a bit over the top. "True," Maya agreed. "But it's also remembered by the survivors." Before anyone could respond to that rather ominous statement, the throne room doors began to open with a sound like distant thunder. Beyond lay the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, a vast chamber lined with columns of pure energy, its ceiling disappearing into shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. At the far end, elevated on a platform that required 57 steps to reach, sat the golden throne of eternal rule. And on that throne sat His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Dracoth the Conqueror, Lord of 1,000 worlds, Master of the 7 fleets, and quite possibly the most dangerous being in known space. Maya Torres looked at the scene, the overwhelming grandeur, the armed guards, the massive throne, the Emperor himself radiating power and menace, and said exactly what any reasonable being would say in such circumstances. "Well, this isn't intimidating at all." I closed my 4 eyes and wondered if it was too late to request a transfer to the Outer Rim colonies. Preferably somewhere with no humans, no politics, and no situations that required me to referee conversations between Deathworlders and galactic tyrants. This was going to be a very long day. Emperor Dracoth the Conqueror was 12 feet tall, weighed approximately 800 pounds of pure muscle and bone density that could crush diamonds, and possessed eyes that glowed with an inner fire that had literally incinerated lesser beings who dared to meet his gaze directly. His voice, when he chose to speak, could shake the foundations of mountains and had been known to cause spontaneous hearing loss in anyone standing within 50 feet. Maya Torres looked up at him and waved. "Hi there, you must be the Emperor. I'm Maya. Thanks for agreeing to see me on such short notice." The silence that followed was so complete that I could hear my own hearts beating. All 4 of them, in perfect, terrified synchronization. Emperor Dracoth leaned forward on his throne, the movement causing his ceremonial armor to scrape against the golden armrests with a sound like grinding continental plates. His glowing eyes fixed on the small human standing at the bottom of his 57 steps, and for a moment I genuinely expected her to spontaneously combust. Instead, she smiled and clasped her hands behind her back, rocking slightly on her heels like she was waiting for a bus. Human, the Emperor's voice boomed across the throne room, causing several decorative artifacts to rattle on their pedestals. You dare enter my presence without prostrating yourself before the golden throne? Well, Maya said conversationally, I would, but honestly, those steps looked like a real workout, and I didn't bring my climbing gear. Besides, we're just here to chat, right? No need for all the formality. I felt my left eye begin to twitch. In 47 years of galactic politics, I had never seen anyone respond to imperial wrath with casual dismissal. Not even other emperors dared to be so human about it. You find my throne room inadequate. Dracoth's voice dropped to a mere whisper, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying than his shouting. Oh no, it's lovely. Really, very golden. Must be a nightmare to keep clean, though. Do you have a special cleaning crew for all this? I imagine the insurance alone costs a fortune. Several guards exchanged glances. I could practically hear their mental processes overheating as they tried to categorize this interaction according to their training protocols. Supreme Commander Vex stepped forward from his position beside the throne. Your Imperial Majesty, perhaps we should simply eliminate this insolent creature and be done with it. Maya turned to look at Vex with genuine interest. Oh, you must be the military guy. Nice uniform. Very militaristic. Tell me, Commander, how exactly do you plan to eliminate a diplomatic representative without starting an interstellar incident? Diplomatic representative, Vex scoffed. You represent nothing. Terra has no formal government. You are a collection of warring tribes on a backwater death world. Actually, Maya said, reaching into her jacket again and producing another data pad, we established the United Terran Federation about 6 months ago. Filed all the paperwork with the Galactic Registry Office, paid the fees, got our official recognition stamps. We're fully legitimate now. She held up the data pad, which was glowing with official seals and certifications. Would you like to verify the documentation? I've got copies in 17 different languages, including 3 that your people speak. I activated my personal scanner and ran a quick check on the data pad's authentication codes. My blood, all 6 different types of it, turned to ice water. Sir, I whispered into my communicator to Commander Vex, the documentation is legitimate. Terra is officially recognized as a sovereign government entity as of 6 months, 3 weeks and 4 days ago. Vex's face went through several interesting color changes. That is impossible. We would have been notified. You were, Maya said cheerfully. Certified mail delivered to your embassy on Proxima Station. Signed for by someone named, let me check, Assistant Deputy Under Secretary Glorb Mundenson. Ring any bells? The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Vex frantically activating his communication implant, probably trying to locate the aforementioned Glorb Mundenson and determine why critical diplomatic correspondence had not been forwarded to the appropriate authorities. Emperor Dracoth, meanwhile, was studying Maya with the kind of intense focus that he usually reserved for battle plans and execution orders. You planned this, he said finally. All of it. The timing, the documentation, the legal loopholes. You came here knowing exactly what our response would be. Well, I did my homework, Maya admitted. You'd be surprised how much information is publicly available if you know where to look. Your military deployments, your standard diplomatic protocols, your emperor's daily schedule. It's all right there in various databases, just waiting for someone to connect the dots. You have been spying on us. Reading, Maya corrected. There's a difference. Spying implies stealth and subterfuge. Reading implies libraries and really good search engines. Humans are excellent at research. It's one of our better qualities. She gestured toward the throne room's magnificent architecture. For instance, I know this palace was built using forced labor from the Andromedan colonies. I know your Royal Guard recruitment program has a 67% fatality rate during training. I know your empire's economy is dependent on tribute from conquered worlds, which means you're constantly expanding to maintain revenue streams. And I know that 3 of your 7 fleets are currently dealing with rebellions in the outer spiral, which means your available military resources are somewhat stretched. The temperature in the throne room seemed to drop another 10 degrees. Every guard in the chamber had gone perfectly still, their weapons systems charging with barely audible whines. "Are you threatening me, human?" Emperor Dracoth's voice was quiet now, deadly quiet. "Threatening?" Maya looked genuinely surprised. "Oh no, not at all. I'm negotiating. There's a big difference. Threats are what you use when you want to start a war. Negotiations are what you use when you want to avoid one. And what makes you think I want to avoid a war with your pathetic little planet?" Maya's smile widened, and for the first time since she had entered the palace, I saw something in her expression that made my primary spine tingle with warning signals. It was the same look I had seen in the eyes of apex predators just before they struck. "Because," she said, "you've read our files too." The silence stretched out like a taut wire. "You know what happened the last time someone declared war on a Class 12 Deathworld," Maya continued. "The hegemony of worlds tried it about 300 years ago. Sent a fleet of 2,000 ships to pacify the local population of what they considered a primitive backwater planet. Know what happened to them?" Nobody answered, but I could see several guards shifting uncomfortably. "They disappeared," Maya said, "all of them. 2,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, gone without a trace. The survivors who made it to the escape pods told stories about impossible tactics, weapons that shouldn't exist, and an enemy that fought like they had nothing left to lose. Because they didn't." She began walking slowly around the base of the throne platform, her hands still clasped behind her back. "The thing about Deathworlders, your Imperial Majesty, is that we don't fight wars the way everyone else does. We don't line up our ships in neat formations and exchange polite volleys until someone surrenders. We don't follow the accepted rules of engagement. We don't care about honor or glory or maintaining the status quo." Her voice remained conversational, almost casual, but every word hit the throne room like a hammer blow. "We fight like our entire species depends on it. Because usually it does." Emperor Dracoth leaned back in his throne, his glowing eyes never leaving Maya's face. "You speak of war as though it is inevitable." "Oh, it doesn't have to be," Maya replied. "That's why I'm here. I'm offering you something much better than war." "And what would that be?" "It's a trade agreement." The Emperor blinked. It was possibly the first time in his 1,000-year reign that anyone had managed to surprise him so completely. "A trade agreement?" Commander Vex sputtered. "You march into our throne room, threaten our empire, and then offer us a trade agreement." "I didn't threaten anyone," Maya said mildly. "I simply pointed out some historical facts. And yes, a trade agreement. Terra has something you need. We need nothing from your primitive world." "Really?" Maya pulled out yet another data pad. "Because according to your own economic reports, your empire is facing some significant resource shortages. Rare earth elements, mostly. The kind used in advanced electronics, weapons systems faster than light engines." She tapped the datapad screen. "Turns out Terra has those resources. Lots of them. More than any other known world in charted space. Something about being a Class 12 Deathworld means we have geological processes that concentrate rare elements in ways that other planets simply can't match." I ran a quick calculation in my head and nearly fell off my observation platform. If Terra had the kind of rare earth deposits Maya was suggesting, they were sitting on the most valuable real estate in 3 galaxies. "In exchange for our friends," Maya continued, "we're prepared to offer the Zephyrian Empire exclusive trading rights for these resources. No other species gets access, no competing markets. Just you and us, doing business like civilized beings. And what do you gain from this arrangement? Emperor Dracoth asked. Peace, Maya said simply. And the knowledge that our people can continue to live their lives without worrying about orbital bombardments or invasion fleets. We're not looking to conquer anyone. We just want to be left alone to do our own thing. Your own thing? You know, explore the galaxy, make friends, invent interesting technologies, figure out how to make beer that tastes good in zero gravity. The usual stuff. Despite himself, I saw the Emperor's mouth twitch slightly. It might have been the beginning of a smile, or possibly just a muscle spasm brought on by stress. And if we refuse your generous offer? He asked. Maya shrugged. Then you refuse it, your choice entirely. Though I should mention that 6 other major powers have also expressed interest in trading partnerships with Terra. The Centaurian Republic, the Free Worlds Alliance, the Andromedan Confederation. They're all very eager to discuss exclusive rights to our rare Earth deposits. The political implications hit me like a meteor strike. If Terra formed an exclusive trade relationship with any of the Zephyrian Empire's rivals, it would shift the balance of power in the galaxy overnight. Whoever controlled access to those resources would have an insurmountable advantage in both military and economic terms. Emperor Dracoth was obviously thinking the same thing. You would use our enemies against us. I would use basic economics, Maya corrected. Supply and demand. We have something valuable, other people want it, so we choose who to do business with based on who offers us the best deal. It's not personal, it's just business. And what constitutes the best deal from your perspective? Like I said, peace, security, the chance to develop our own civilization without interference, and maybe some cultural exchange programs. We're curious about other species. Your art, your music, your literature. Humans love learning new things. She paused, then added with a grin, plus we make really good food. You should try human cuisine sometime. I bet your people would love pizza. Bread, sauce, cheese, various toppings, baked until delicious. It's comfort food. Very popular. We could teach your chefs how to make it. I watched Emperor Dracoth process this information. Here was a being who had conquered star systems, who had made entire civilizations kneel before his throne, who commanded fleets that could reduce planets to cosmic dust. And he was being offered pizza recipes by a human diplomat. The absurdity of it was so profound that it actually made sense. Release the human prisoners, the Emperor said finally. Your Imperial Majesty. Commander Vex looked confused. You heard me. Release them. All of them. Full pardons, medical treatment if necessary, transportation back to Terran space. Sir, if I may ask why? Emperor Dracoth stood up from his throne, his massive frame casting shadows across the entire chamber. Because, Commander, I have just been out-negotiated by a species that measures success in pizza recipes and considers beer brewing a worthy scientific endeavor. He looked down at Maya, who was still standing at the bottom of the 57 steps, still smiling that same pleasant, unflappable smile. And because, he continued, any species clever enough to turn legal bureaucracy into a weapon is probably clever enough to keep their promises. Maya Torres bowed slightly, the gesture somehow managing to be both respectful and completely lacking in submission. Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. I think this is the beginning of a very profitable relationship. As the guards escorted her out of the throne room, I heard her chatting with them about the finer points of throne room acoustics and whether the echo effect was intentional or just a happy accident of the architecture. Later, as I filed my report on the day's events, I reflected on what I had witnessed. A single human had walked into the heart of the most powerful military empire in known space, faced down an emperor who had conquered 1,000 worlds, and negotiated the release of prisoners using nothing more than paperwork, economic theory, and an offer to share pizza recipes. It was, without question, the most human thing I had ever seen. And that, more than anything else, was what convinced me that the Zephyrian Empire had just made a very wise decision. After all, anyone who could weaponize bureaucracy and pizza was probably not someone you wanted as an enemy.